Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, what if I told you that somewhere between the ticking of time and the silent weight of your wallet, your entire financial destiny is being decided, not by luck, not by fate, but by the smallest choices you repeat every single day? What if the distance between struggle and abundance, between fear and freedom, is hidden inside a number so small, so uncomfortable, that most people would never dare to live it, even for a single day? I chose to live on $5 a day, and what I discovered was not just about money. It was about life itself. I still remember the first morning, standing in my kitchen, holding those $5 as if they were my entire world. Because for that day, they truly were. No backup, no shortcuts, no invisible safety net waiting to rescue me. Just $5 and 24 hours ahead. It sounds simple, almost like a game, but the mind doesn't treat it like a game. The mind panics. It calculates. It whispers fears you didn't even know existed. Suddenly, everything feels expensive. A cup of coffee becomes a luxury. A small snack feels like a reckless decision. And for the first time, you begin to understand what millions of people feel every single day. And that's when the real lesson began. You see, most people don't fail financially because they don't earn enough. They fail because they never truly understand the value of what they already have. Money, when it is abundant, becomes invisible. But when it is limited, it becomes a mirror, reflecting your habits, your discipline, your patience, and most importantly, your mindset. There was a time in my life, long before any sense of financial stability, when I used to believe that money problems would disappear the moment I earned more. I told myself, if I could just make a little extra, everything would be fine. But life has a quiet way of teaching deeper truths. As my income slowly grew, so did my expenses. So did my desires. So did my excuses. The problem was never the income. It was the mindset. And until that changed, nothing truly changed. This $5 experiment forced me to confront that reality, without comfort, without illusion. On the second day, I made a mistake. I spent too much, too early, on something that felt necessary in the moment. And for the rest of the day, I carried a quiet anxiety, a subtle fear that followed me everywhere. Every decision became heavier. Every choice carried consequences. That feeling, that constant mental pressure, is something many people live with for years. Not because they are careless, but because they were never taught how to think about money. And that is where true wealth begins. Not in your bank account, but in your thinking. When you have only $5, you begin to ask better questions. Do I need this, or do I just want it? Is this choice helping me or hurting me? Am I acting out of discipline or out of emotion? And slowly, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing comfort and start building control. I've seen people earn thousands, even millions, and still feel broke. And I've seen others, with very little, live with a sense of peace and clarity that money alone cannot buy. The difference is not in the amount, it is in the awareness. There was a phase in my early journey when I tried to start something of my own. A small venture, built on hope more than experience. I invested what little I had, and I believed, deeply believed, that it would work. But it didn't. It failed quietly, without drama, without warning. And in that silence, I learned one of the hardest lessons of my life. Money lost can be earned again. But the mindset that led to that loss must be understood, or it will repeat itself. Living on $5 a day brought me back to that lesson. It stripped away the illusion of endless resources and replaced it with something far more valuable, intentional thinking. Every dollar became a decision. Every decision became a reflection of my character. By the third day, something unexpected happened. The fear began to fade, not because the situation improved, but because I started adapting. I became more patient, more creative, more aware. I looked for solutions instead of complaints, and that is the quiet power of limitation. It forces growth. We often think abundance creates success, but in truth, it is limitation that builds it. When you don't have much, you learn to think differently. You learn to wait, to prioritize, to say no, even when it's uncomfortable. And those small acts of discipline repeated over time create a foundation that no market crash, no economic shift can easily break. There is a dangerous belief that many people carry. I will be disciplined when I have more. But discipline doesn't come from abundance. It creates it. If you cannot manage $5, you will not manage 5,000 or 5 million. The numbers may change, but the habits remain. As the days passed, I began to notice something deeper. My relationship with money was changing. I no longer saw it as something to spend, but as something to respect, something to protect, something to grow, patiently, quietly, consistently. And this is where investing truly begins, not in charts, not in trends, but in behavior, because the market, in all its complexity, rewards one simple thing: consistency over time, not brilliance, not luck, but steady, disciplined, thoughtful action. And that same principle applies to your daily life. Every small saving, every wise decision, every moment of patience compounds, slowly, silently, powerfully. By the fifth day, the experiment was no longer about survival. It became a form of clarity. I realized how much of my previous spending was driven by impulse, by habit, by unconscious patterns. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. You begin to question everything, and in that questioning, you begin to take control. Dear listeners, there is a quiet truth that most people avoid. Financial struggle is not always caused by lack of opportunity, but often by lack of awareness, by habits formed without intention, repeated without reflection. And until those habits are examined, no amount of income will create lasting peace. Living on $5 a day was not comfortable. It was not easy, but it was honest. And sometimes, honesty is the most valuable currency you can have, because when you are honest about your financial behavior, you begin to see the path forward, not as a distant dream, but as a series of small, deliberate steps, steps that require patience, steps that demand discipline, steps that test your commitment when results are not yet visible. And that is where most people stop, not because they cannot continue, but because they cannot see immediate rewards. But wealth, real wealth, does not reveal itself quickly. It grows in silence. It builds in the background. It rewards those who are willing to trust the process, even when nothing seems to be happening. And as I reached the end of this experiment, holding those same $5 in my hand, I realized something that changed me deeply. The amount had not changed, but I had, and that made all the difference, because the true transformation was never meant to happen in the wallet. It was happening in the mind, quietly, steadily, reshaping the way I saw every decision, every sacrifice, every opportunity that passed in front of me. You see, most people want results they can show, numbers they can celebrate, growth they can measure. But the most important changes, the ones that truly alter your financial future, they happen where no one is watching, in your thoughts, in your habits, in the silent moments when you choose discipline over desire. There were days during this journey when nothing seemed to improve. The $5 remained $5. The limitations stayed the same, and the progress felt invisible. And in those moments, I understood why so many people give up, because the world has conditioned us to expect immediate rewards, instant success, quick returns. But real wealth does not follow that rhythm. It moves slowly, like a tree growing deep roots beneath the surface, long before it ever shows signs of life above the ground. And if you walk away too early, you will never see what you were building. I began to notice how often people chase complexity, believing that complicated strategies, risky investments, or secret opportunities will change their lives overnight. But the truth is far more simple and far more difficult to accept. Wealth is built through repetition, through consistency, through doing the right things, again and again, even when they feel small, even when they feel insignificant. Saving a little, regularly, spending with intention, avoiding unnecessary debt, investing patiently. These are not exciting actions. They don't create headlines. They don't feel powerful in the moment. But over time, they become unstoppable. There is a quiet discipline in saying no. No to things you can afford, but do not need. No to distractions that pull you away from your purpose. No to habits that feel good today but cost you tomorrow. And every time you say no, you are not losing something. You are protecting something, your future. I remember sitting one evening, calculating how I had spent each dollar that day, not out of fear anymore, but out of curiosity. And for the first time, I felt a sense of control that I had never experienced before. Not because I had more money, but because I understood it. And that understanding is where confidence is born. Not the loud confidence that seeks attention, but the quiet confidence that knows, no matter what happens, you can manage, you can adapt, you can rebuild. This is the kind of confidence that markets cannot shake, that losses cannot destroy, that uncertainty cannot weaken, because it is not built on outcomes. It is built on discipline. There is a moment in every financial journey where the excitement fades, where the motivation slows down, where the progress becomes invisible. And that is the moment that defines everything, because that is where consistency is tested. Not when things are easy, but when they are repetitive. Not when results are visible, but when they are delayed. Most people are willing to start. Very few are willing to continue. And yet, it is in that continuation that everything compounds. Every small effort, every wise decision, every act of patience begins to stack upon itself, quietly, powerfully, until one day, what once felt like nothing becomes something undeniable. But you must stay long enough to see it. There is also a deeper truth, one that many people avoid. Sacrifice is not a punishment, it is a trade. You are not giving something up, you are choosing something better. When you skip an unnecessary expense, you are not losing pleasure, you are gaining freedom. When you delay gratification, you are not denying yourself. You are investing in a future version of yourself, who will thank you for your patience. And this shift, this way of thinking, changes everything. Because now, your actions are no longer driven by impulse. They are guided by purpose. I began to see money, not as a goal, but as a tool that reflects your discipline, a tool that amplifies your habits, a tool that rewards your patience. And when you treat it that way, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing money, and you start attracting stability. Dear listeners, there is no secret formula, no hidden shortcut, no perfect moment waiting for you to begin. There is only today. There is only the choices you make, right now, with what you already have. And whether it is $5 or $500, the principle remains the same. Respect it, manage, Grow it, because the habits you build with a little will define what you do with a lot. As this journey continued, I realized something that many people overlook. It is not the size of your income that determines your future. It is the strength of your habits, and habits, once formed, do not ask for permission. They operate automatically, shaping your life, day after day, year after year. So the question is not, how much do you earn? The question is, what do you do consistently with what you earn? Because that answer, quietly, patiently, is writing your future. And if you listen closely, beyond the noise of the world, beyond the pressure to move faster, to earn more, to chase endlessly, you will hear a softer voice, a wiser voice, reminding you that true wealth is not built in moments of excitement, but in seasons of patience. And those who understand this, those who embrace the slow, steady path, they may not look impressive in the beginning. They may not stand out in the crowd, but over time, they become unshakable because they are not chasing success. They are building it, brick by brick, decision by decision, day by day. And that is a power that cannot be taken away, because once that foundation is built, once your habits begin to align with your purpose, something inside you becomes still. Not empty, but calm. Not passive, but certain. You no longer feel the need to rush. You no longer feel the pressure to prove. You no longer measure your worth by what you spend or what you show. Instead, you begin to measure it by what you keep, what you grow, and what you become. There is a quiet peace that comes when your financial life is no longer driven by chaos, when your decisions are no longer reactions, but reflections, when your money is no longer scattered, but directed. And this peace is something no paycheck alone can give you. It is earned through discipline, protected through patience, strengthened through consistency. I began to notice how differently I moved through the world. A sense of awareness followed me. Not fear, not limitation, but clarity. When I walked into a store, I no longer saw things to buy. I saw choices to evaluate. When I earned money, I no longer saw it as something to spend. I saw it as something to allocate, to assign a purpose, to give direction. And that simple shift changed everything, because money without direction disappears, but money with purpose multiplies. There is a misconception that financial freedom is about having endless resources, but true freedom is not about having more. It is about needing less. It is about being in control. Control over your impulses, control over your decisions, control over your future, and when you reach that point, even partially, you begin to feel something rare, a sense of independence, not just financially, but emotionally. You are no longer easily influenced. No longer pulled by every trend, no longer shaken by every market movement, because your confidence is no longer external. It comes from within, from knowing that you have built something steady, something thoughtful, something real, and perhaps the most powerful realization of all is that this journey, this transformation, was never out of reach. It did not require extraordinary intelligence. It did not demand perfect timing. It did not depend on luck. It only required a decision to become aware, decision to become disciplined, a decision to stay consistent. Even when it was uncomfortable, $5 a day was never the goal. It was the mirror, a mirror that showed me where I was careless, where I was impulsive, where I was unconscious, and more importantly, where I could improve. Dear family of dreamers, there is something deeply powerful about taking responsibility, not in a heavy, burdensome way, but in a calm, empowering way. When you stop blaming circumstances, when you stop waiting for the perfect opportunity, When you stop expecting external change, and instead, you look inward, you take back control, and in that control, you find strength. In that strength, you find clarity, and in that clarity, you find direction. The noise of the world begins to fade. The pressure to keep up begins to dissolve. The fear of missing out loses its grip because you are no longer chasing. You are building, slowly, quietly, steadily. And there is something incredibly powerful about a life built this way because it is not fragile. It is not dependent on conditions. It is not easily shaken. It is grounded in habits, grounded in discipline, grounded in a deep understanding of what truly matters. As I stepped away from this experiment, there was no dramatic ending, no sudden wealth, no instant transformation in numbers. But there was something far more valuable, a sense of alignment. My actions matched my intentions. My decisions reflected my values. My path felt clear. And when you reach that place, you realize you were never chasing money. You were searching for peace. And peace comes not from having everything, but from understanding enough, from knowing that you are on the right path, from trusting your process, from believing in your discipline, and that belief, quietly, becomes your greatest asset. Because markets will rise and fall, opportunities will come and go, challenges will appear without warning, but a disciplined mind, a patient heart, and a clear vision. These things will carry you through all of it. They will guide you. When things are uncertain, they will steady you. When emotions rise, they will protect you. When others panic, and over time, they will build something within you that no external force can take away. A quiet confidence, a steady strength, a deep, unshakable peace. And in the end, that is the true return on every wise decision you make. Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, if you have walked this journey with me, from the weight of $5 to the quiet clarity it revealed, then you already understand something most people spend a lifetime chasing. Wealth was never just about money. It was always about awareness. We began with a simple experiment, something small, almost insignificant. Yet within it was hidden a truth so powerful, it can reshape an entire life. That the way you handle a little determines what you will do with a lot. And as the days unfolded, the struggle, the discomfort, the constant decisions, they were not obstacles. They were teachers, quietly revealing the habits, the patterns, the unconscious behaviors that were shaping the future, long before results could be seen. You see, most people are waiting for more income, waiting for the right time, waiting for a moment when everything feels easier. But life does not reward those who wait. It rewards those who prepare. And preparation does not begin when you have abundance. It begins when you choose discipline, even in limitation, because discipline is not something you turn on. When life improves, it is something you build. When life is uncertain, and once it is built, it stays with you, guiding your decisions, protecting your progress, multiplying your efforts, in ways that feel almost invisible, until one day, they are undeniable. This journey was never about surviving on $5. It was about mastering yourself, mastering your impulses, mastering your emotions, mastering the silent battle between what you want now and what you truly want in the future. And when you begin to win that battle, even in small ways, everything changes. Your spending becomes intentional. Your saving becomes consistent. Your investing becomes patient. And slowly, without noise, without rush, your life begins to move in a new direction, a direction not driven by fear, but by clarity, not by pressure, but by purpose. And this is where true abundance begins, not when you have more, but when you need less and manage better. Dear listeners, there is a kind of success that is loud. It demands attention. It seeks validation. But there is another kind, quiet, steady, deeply rooted, the kind that grows over time, the kind that does not break under pressure, the kind that brings not just wealth, but peace. That is the success you are building. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you delay gratification, every time you stay consistent, when no one is watching, and, perhaps the most beautiful part of this journey, is that it is available to you, right now, not tomorrow, not when things are perfect, but in this very moment. With whatever you have, however small it may seem, because $5 taught me something priceless, that the size of your beginning does not define the size of your future. What defines it is your vision, your patience, your discipline, and your willingness to keep going, even when the progress feels invisible. So move forward, calmly, not with urgency, but with intention, not with fear, but with understanding. Trust the small steps, respect the process, stay consistent, even in silence. And one day, without noise, without announcement, you will look back and realize you didn't just change your money, you changed your life.